He was assigned to watch him to report every word, every move that crossed the line. Instead, he took his hand and ran. In North Korea, even the watchers aren't free. Today, you'll hear the story of a youth league officer who chose a stranger's life over his own safety, and what that choice cost him. Join us in standing up for human rights. Subscribe to hear more stories of freedom. It all started like this. I'm from Chongjin, a port city where the wind off the East Sea cuts like a blade. I grew up listening to fishing boats' horns at dawn, men heading out for pollock before sunrise. Every winter, families hung fish to dry on wooden racks outside their homes. That smell, briny, smoky, somehow comforting, drifted through the whole neighborhood. We were poor. Everyone was. But neighbors shared what little they had. That was just how things worked. People called me a hard worker even as a kid, top student at school, good speaker at youth league meetings, the kind of young man whose loyalty nobody questioned. So I got placed with the Chongjin Youth League Committee. My job was simple: watch how young people lived, listen to what they said, and report anything that looked like a problem. Back then, I didn't question the system. The country survives if the organization keeps youth in line. I believed that without thinking twice. Rice at the Jangmadang, the black market, had climbed past 5,001 a kilo. Still, I believed we were on the right side of history. Then one day, a report landed on my desk. A young man had cracked a joke over drinks with friends. By the time it passed through another officer's hands, that joke had become a reactionary statement. I stared at that page for a long time. A small question formed in my mind. Was this even true? That question was the first crack in the world I thought I knew. After that day, I couldn't stop thinking about him. His name was Min Hyuk, not his real name. 3 years younger than me. One bad joke, and now he wore a label reactionary. I held the report back. Didn't file it. Told myself I needed to look into it more before doing anything I couldn't undo. A few days later, a public punishment happened in the middle of Chongjin. A young man from another village had watched a South Korean video. They dragged him out in front of everyone. I watched it happen. His mother dropped to her knees, sobbing, begging. I still can't shake that image. The older folks always said even the Korean War wasn't this brutal. My legs were shaking by the time it was over. That night I couldn't sleep. If I'd filed that report, would Min Hyuk have been standing there instead? The thought wouldn't leave me alone. For the first time, I understood something was deeply wrong. Everything I'd believed in wasn't protecting people. It was trapping them. My family wasn't well off either. My parents had worked the Chongjin docks their whole lives. My younger sister was still in school. One wrong move from me and the whole family would pay for it. I knew that. But something in me had already started to break. Every night at dinner, I'd look at my parents and think about something else entirely. Can I really keep doing this job? A few days later, I pulled Min Hyuk aside, asked him quietly, "Did you really mean it that way?" He looked terrified, said no over and over. But once he realized I hadn't filed the report, something shifted. He started talking. Really talking. We were on opposite sides, watcher and watched, but the same weight was sitting on both our chests. Things only got worse from there. Pressure came down from above to produce results. Officers started competing, writing harsher reports just to look productive. I kept stalling on Min Hyuk's file, but my superiors kept asking, "What's the status on that one?" Food was running short in our neighborhood. Some families weren't eating more than once a day. Rice prices kept climbing. Finding a single pill of medicine felt impossible. Min Hyuk's family had it just as bad. His father had fallen ill and there was no medicine to be found. I wanted to slip him part of my salary, but even that felt dangerous. Helping him too, obviously, could raise questions. Then another friend of Min Hyuk's got dragged in. This one wasn't even about anything real, just someone's jealousy turned into an informant's report. I watched the whole process unfold from the inside, and it hit me this system wasn't built to protect anyone. It was built to turn neighbors into informants. And yet somehow people still found ways to share food in secret, to look out for each other. Whatever this system was trying to crush, it hadn't crushed everything. I stopped sleeping. Couldn't focus on anything. My hands would shake just writing a report. Keep doing this and eventually I'll be the one who destroys someone's life. That thought sat in my chest like a stone. Every time I looked at Min Hyuk, guilt and recognition hit me at once. I think he felt the same looking at me. Then one night he showed up at my door. "I can't do this anymore." That one sentence broke something in me too. "Neither can I told him. We'd both reached the same place on our own at the same time. After that night, we stopped hiding things from each other. At first it was just venting. Then the conversations got specific. "Is there a way out of here?" Min Hyuk asked it first. I was surprised and not surprised at all. Some part of me had already been turning that question over in the dark. Part of my job had involved tracking border activity reports, so I had some sense of which stretches had lighter patrols and when the night shifts changed. I had no idea back then how much that knowledge would matter. Family was the hard part. I couldn't tell my parents. They'd have stopped me, and if anything went wrong later, they'd be the ones who paid for it. A few days before we left, I made up an excuse to visit them and stayed longer than usual. My mother made pollock soup. I ate it in silence, smiling, saying nothing. Some part of me already knew it might be the last time. Min Hyuk had it just as hard. His father's illness had gotten worse. The night before we left, he sat by his father's bedside in secret, then walked away without a word. "I told myself at least the kid should live," he said. I cried when he told me that. We scraped together what little money we had and pieced together what we knew. Every move had to be careful. Every move had to be fast. I finally understood what people meant when they said they'd made peace with dying. As the day got closer, fear and resolve grew side by side. The night finally came. I'd already checked the patrol schedule, picked the window when the shift was thinnest. Min Hyuk and I left the village by separate routes and met at the agreed spot. Walking through the dark, my palms wouldn't stop sweating. The closer we got to the border, the harder my heart pounded. Every time patrol lights swept the distance, we dropped into the trees and held our breath. I wasn't young anymore, but in that moment my legs were shaking like a kid's. Min Hyuk was shaking worse than I was. When we reached the Tumen River, the water was colder and deeper than I'd expected. I could swim a little. Min Hyuk couldn't. I grabbed his hand and held on as we waded in. The current kept pulling our feet out from under us. Halfway across, my legs gave out for a second and everything went hazy. I prayed silently to my grandfather wherever he was. "Please, let us live." When my foot finally hit solid ground, I let out a breath I'd been holding the whole way across. Min Hyuk looked half-conscious, but he never let go of my hand. We crawled into the brush on the other side and stayed there, barely breathing. Every distant voice from a patrol sent my heart slamming against my ribs. That night, relief and terror arrived together. We'd made it. We had no idea what came next. Crossing the border wasn't the end of anything. It was the start of something else entirely. Stepping onto Chinese soil, I thought for a second that we'd made it. That feeling didn't last. Life in China was its own kind of tightrope. We hid who we were. Every day we watched for checkpoints. We got lucky. Some ethnic Korean families, same blood, different passport, took us in without asking questions. The first farmhouse we stayed at, an old woman set out a hot meal before we'd said a single word. That kindness carried more weight than I can explain. Later, we connected with missionaries working out of South Korea, and the help kept coming. We hid by day, moved by night, worked rough jobs at restaurants and farms just to eat. Not speaking Chinese made everything harder. We communicated in gestures, half words, whatever worked. Sometimes we crossed paths with other defectors and traded what little information we had. Eventually, a broker in South Korea reached us. Following his instructions exactly was the safest path, he said. But one stretch ran straight through a heavily checked zone. Cars were getting pulled over one by one. The car right in front of ours ran the checkpoint instead of stopping. While the police chased it down, our car slipped through, untouched. My hands still sweat thinking about it. We survived China's uncertainty one day at a time, getting closer, step by step, to South Korea. The longer we stayed in China, the more the risk piled up. Eventually, we made the call South Korea by way of Southeast Asia. People said that route was the safest, so we took it, knowing exactly how hard it would be. Crossing the mountains was brutal in a way words don't fully capture. Rough terrain. Rain turned the trails to mud, and we fell more times than I can count. One mother in our group carried her small child the entire way. Watching her, I told myself our hardship was nothing compared to hers. Help showed up at every turn. We stayed nearly a month at a church where the pastor looked after us like family. That's where we connected with the South Korean consulate, the last real hurdle. Even at that final stage, the risk of being sent back never fully disappeared. Until our identities were confirmed, we couldn't breathe easy. The consulate staff stayed on it. After days of waiting, stomachs in knots, the confirmation finally came through we were safe. Min Hyuk and I held each other and cried for a long time. After staring down death more times than I could count, I finally understood what hope actually felt like. The first time I set foot on South Korean soil, I just stood there, frozen. Everything was strange. Everything was new. A convenience store lit up at 3 in the morning, that alone stopped me in my tracks. Walking into a grocery store, I had no idea how to choose anything. There was just too much. For a while, I couldn't believe you could search anything on the internet and just find it. News from the north, news from the rest of the world, all of it, right there. That was the moment freedom stopped being a word and started being something I could feel. People noticed my accent sometimes, the food tasted unfamiliar. But we were still the same people, deep down, and that carried me through the adjustment. At Hanawan, the resettlement center, I had time to really look back at what I'd done. I'd gone from watching people to just being a person, an ordinary one. It felt strange. It felt like a gift. Min-hyuk walked a similar road, building a new life of his own. Even now, I think about Chongjin's shoreline, the smell of drying pollock, my parents' faces, my sister's face. I miss the family I left behind more than I can put into words. I think often about whether reunification might let me walk that ground again someday, hold my parents' hands one more time. I hope our generation gets to see it happen. Freedom, it turns out, isn't some grand idea. It's being able to say what you actually think. It's being able to sleep at night without worrying about your family. That's all it ever was. I'm grateful more than I can say to have made it this far, and to be able to share this story with you. If you stayed with this one to the end, drop a comment and let me know. This video is a fictional drama created with AI assistance, inspired by composite testimonies from actual North Korean defectors, intended to move and inform viewers. All characters, locations, and events are fictional and do not depict real individuals or events.